call to the honourable member for Paterson.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. On behalf of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, I present the committee's report entitled Australian Food Story, Feeding the Nation and Beyond, together with the minutes of proceedings, and I ask leave of the House to make a short statement in connection with the report.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted. I give the call to the member for Paterson.
Mr Speaker, I present today the report of the inquiry into food security in Australia. Despite Australia being one of the most food-secure countries in the world, recent developments, both here at home and abroad, have shown that food security presents real and growing challenges for our nation. Food security is not something that any of us can or should take for granted. It requires ongoing attention from industry, the community and government. There are a variety of threats to food security in Australia. Food security is already a challenge for many in our community, particularly those on lower incomes and in remote communities. COVID-19 disrupted our food supply chains, as did the recent floods. The war in Ukraine has driven up grain prices, and the cost of energy, fuel and fertilisers has also impacted this. Outbreaks of foot and mouth disease and lumpy skin disease in Indonesia have highlighted biosecurity risks to our food system, as has the arrival of the varroa mite on Australian shores. Mr Deputy Speaker, the report's key recommendation is the formulation of a comprehensive national food plan. The National Food Plan will engage the whole food system, from paddock to plate and beyond. It will deal with the production and distribution of food, supply chain resilience, access to food, good nutrition and the management of food waste. The plan will be overseen by a Minister for Food, supported by a National Food Council made up of industry and community experts. As part of this process, the food supply chain should be mapped and the vulnerabilities identified and addressed. While Australia, broadly speaking, produces far more food than it consumes, there are two production sectors that require attention from government: dairy and seafood. The report recommends the adoption of specific strategies to expand domestic production for both. Innovation has the capacity to improve and, in some directions, revolutionise the production of food in Australia and across the world. Opportunities for expanding innovation and value-adding in food production must be pursued. New industries such as alternative proteins, protected cropping and vertical farming have the capacity to enhance food security. Governments at all levels should commit to supporting these and other novel approaches to feeding our nation. There are significant challenges around the cost and availability of inputs such as fuel, energy, labour and fertiliser. These challenges have the capacity to undermine food security. Local manufacturing of inputs and skills development are crucial. Moreover, we need to encourage people to see the wide range of careers available in the food and agricultural sector at the cutting edge of technological and scientific innovation. Food production is much more than growing crops, even when you are growing crops. Deputy Speaker, addressing food waste is a key aspect of improving food security. Tons of food worth billions of dollars goes to waste every year. The committee has recommended a number of measures to better manage food waste. Biosecurity threats represent a real and significant risk to Australia's food security. We must be ever vigilant. The government must ensure biosecurity is adequately funded and that everyone understands their responsibility for protecting Australia from pest and disease incursions. Food insecurity is a major challenge for Australians and affects significant portions of our population. A range of solutions is available, including better education around food and nutrition, providing school meals, researching the nexus between food and health, particularly mental health, and developing community food networks. Remote communities in Australia, and particularly in our north, face unique challenges brought about by isolation, inadequate infrastructure and the impacts of seasons, such as the wet season. Resolving these challenges requires investment by governments in community-specific solutions. Deputy Speaker, I would like to conclude with some words of thanks for those who have contributed to the inquiry. The committee received a great deal of high-quality evidence from across the nation. In fact, we received 188 very high-quality submissions. They weren't submissions where there's hundreds of them that are just generated by a computer. This was 188 hand-written and often really deliberative submissions. And I really sincerely want to thank the people and groups and researchers and scientists and those who really put their shoulder to the wheel in trying to resolve this issue and made submissions. And they came from a full range of perspectives. I'd like to thank the individuals and organisations that hosted the committee at various places around the country, who provided insights into their contributions to food security. And I also want to thank my fellow colleagues, my darling Aggies, as they were referred to on many of our long trips in vans and cars and charter planes across the length and breadth of the country. You know who you are, my hard-working committee, the ones of you that were able to come on the trips with us and take the evidence, and we did do a good job, although I know self-praise is no recommendation. I want to especially thank the unflappable inquiry secretary, Dr Bill Pender, who has put so much work into this report, not only attending all of the hearings, taking incredibly detailed notes, but also writing what I really feel is a major piece of policy work leading us forward in this space. Bill, thank you for that. And also our research officer, Ben Vivi, who corralled witnesses and kept the show going at all times. Ben, you are an outstanding individual. We just need you to give up smoking and you'll be top of the pops. We want you around for as long as we can, mate. Both Bill and Ben travelled the breadth and width of the country with us. Fran Denny, you are an exemplar, and your wise counsel as committee secretary is always welcome. But my final thanks goes to those who make the meals for the header and the chaser bin drivers who eagerly await the headlights across the paddock, signalling a dinner break. Those who get up early to drive the forklifts and trucks to the market. Those who pilot the planes and boats. Those who get up so very early for the cows, and those who don't go to bed at all. Those who manage the soil profiles and the overdraft. The kids who hear the conversations about when the rain will come or when it will stop and the impact that'll have on the crop. Those who don the suits, do the hair and the makeup to market the commodities, lobby the lawmakers or the price setters. From our farmers and families to our foodies, we all have a role in the Australian food story, feeding our nation and beyond. Thank you.
I thank the honourable member for Paterson, and I see that the honourable member for Dawson is seeking the call.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I seek leave of the House to make a brief statement.
Is leave granted?
Leave is granted.
I give the call to the honourable member for Dawson.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise today to support the report prepared by the Standing Committee of Agriculture as the Deputy Chair, the Honourable Rick Wilson, is on leave. Deputy Speaker, the report, Australian Food Story, Feeding the Nation and Beyond, is an outstanding report. This report is about strengthening and safeguarding food security in Australia. And what could be more important? There has been an enormous amount of work go into this report, and members have worked together right across the chamber, right across the political divide, to deliver a very, very solid report that will have longevity. There's recommendations coming forward which will have longevity for us to take forward and really provide food and fibre for our nation. We received 188 written submissions. They are from individuals, industry and community groups and government bodies. And the quality of the submissions was simply outstanding. We held 24 public hearings, and they were public hearings all over the country, the length and breadth. We travelled to where it's actually at. I think that's so important. I think it's a lesson for everybody in this place to get out of the cities, go out into the country areas and have a look at where our food and fibre and our economy is actually driven from. The committee workshopped and agreed to 35 recommendations. We worked together on this. Speaker, I'd like to acknowledge the experience and professionalism of the committee's chair, Meryl Swanson, and Deputy Chair, Rick Wilson. And I personally thank them for the inclusive way that this committee is run and the collaborative approach to developing this report. I'd also like to thank all our committee members and all the people that provided written submissions and hosted us at our public hearings. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the Inquiry Secretary, Dr Bill Pender, and our Research Officer, Mr Ben Vivi. Outstanding young man, and he looked after us every step of the way. We were always on time, we were always all the transport, and let me tell you, Deputy Speaker, some of the places that we visited, it was no spring picnic to get in and out of and move around. There was planes cancelled. It was quite logistically difficult to do, but everybody in the committee put the shoulder to the wheel. Our chair, Meryl Swanson, she drove us pretty hard, but we've delivered a pretty good result. At one point I was going to write a strongly worded letter to the chair and see if I could get a bit of support, because some of those days we were working 14, 16 hours. But we have delivered a very, very good report. I'd also like to thank Committee Secretary Fran Denny, and I look forward to speaking to this report in a lot more detail, because there's a lot to come from this. There's an enormous amount of work being done. I look forward to speaking at the Federation Chamber to deliver more detail about this very, very good report, and I commend this report to the House.
Given that there are no other members seeking leave to make a statement, I give the call to the member for Paterson.
I move that the House take note of the report.
The debate is adjourned, and the resumption of the debate will be made on order of the day for the next sitting.
I move that the order of the day be referred to the Federation Chamber for debate.
The question is that this be moved to the Fed Chamber. All of that, I'll put that question. All of that opinion say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Speaker, back to the clerk.
Calling the member.